For the moment, we are turning to India's neighbourhood, Myanmar. The Rohingya crisis poses a massive security challenge, not just for the country where it happened, for neighbouring Bangladesh in particular and South Asia in general. A minister from the Sheikh Hasina government in Dhaka has raised fresh concerns now. Obaidul Qadir, who serves as the Transport Minister of Bangladesh, says there is new evidence to prove how Pakistan's ISI is trying to hatch a conspiracy to foment unrest using Rohingya terror groups.
The influx of Rohingyas into Bangladesh has been one of the biggest humanitarian crises staring the global community. The mass exodus has posed a major challenge to the Bangladesh government. The refugees have added to the pressure on the limited resources of the country. But there is another threat that the refugees pose before the South Asian region. Obaidul Qadir, the Bangladesh Transport Minister, has drawn the attention of the world yet again to the terror threat from Pakistan. Qadir has accused Islamabad of hatching a conspiracy with Rohingya terrorist groups. The Transport Minister, in a statement, blamed Pakistan's intelligence agency, the ISI, for hatching a conspiracy to spark unrest in Bangladesh. Qadir was talking about the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, or ARSA, a group behind the terrorist attacks against police forces in Myanmar. The ARSA became a subject of global news coverage when they struck 30 police posts in Rakhine on August 25th this year. 12 people were killed in the attack. India and Bangladeshi intelligence agencies have uncovered links between ARSA and the ISI in the past. ARSA's leader Hafiz Tohar was allegedly trained in Pakistan by members of the Lashkar-e-Taiba. The refugee crisis poses a massive security challenge for South Asia. It's a concern that the Indian government has also raised in Bangladesh. Now there are fears that the ISI may use the Rohingya crisis to foment trouble in the region. We report, WION.
It is essentially a tale of two countries. On one hand, there's Pakistan, which despite warnings continues to push its sinister plan to radicalize the Rohingya. On the other hand is India, which is now lending a helping hand to both Bangladesh and Myanmar to tackle the humanitarian crisis that has been unfolding for months now. Under Operation Insaniyat, the government of India sent 700 tons of relief material to Bangladesh for the Rohingya refugees. The relief material took care of 62,000 families. A week before this consignment, the Indian Air Force had delivered 53 tons of relief materials to Chittagong. India has now decided to spend $25 million in the next 5 years to develop the state of Rakhine, the state in Myanmar where the refugees came from. The foundation for the agreement was set during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Myanmar in November this year. The Ministry of External Affairs has said that the agreement intends to help the government of Myanmar to achieve normalcy in Rakhine. Pakistan, meanwhile, is hatching a conspiracy with Rohingya terror groups. That is what the Minister of Transport of Bangladesh has claimed. Obaidul Qadir made the statement in front of reporters during his visit to Kolkata. He said that the Bangladesh government has received reports on how the ISI is behind this plan. He could be hinting at the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, which has been linked to Pakistan-based terrorist groups. Earlier this year, remember, Indian and Bangladeshi intelligence agencies chanced upon fresh evidence that revealed the inner workings of this Salvation Army, the Rohingya Salvation Army, and its links with Pakistan's ISI. Intelligence officials intercepted 3 telephonic conversations between the 23rd and 24th of August. Raids and further investigation by Bangladeshi authorities have revealed the involvement of Brigadier Ashfaq and Major Salamat of the ISI, who were in touch with a man called Hafiz Tohar. He's a military wing chief of the ARSA. One such call was made on the 23rd of August, where Tohar received instructions to hit multiple targets within the next 48 hours. Listen into this.
Attack right after the black man submits his report.
Yes, sir, whatever you say, but it cannot happen before the night of 24th.
The ISI officer wanted the attacks right after former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan submitted his report to the Rohingya crisis in August. They spoke again the next day when Brigadier Ashfaq ordered Tohar to launch the attacks as soon as possible. Here's another excerpt.
When is the black man making his report public?
At 3 p.m, in a few minutes from now.
Why are you taking so much time?
It takes time to convey the message.
No wonder then that security in Rakhine is a major concern for the global community. Former United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan, who led this advisory commission on Rakhine, had issued a warning. In that report, he said that unrest could spiral out of control if the status quo continues. Violence, in fact, is not new to Rakhine. In recent years, and before this mass exodus that we've seen this year, there were sporadic spurts of violence. Myanmar's authorities have been criticized globally for failing to act swiftly. Did they do nothing at all? One cannot say that for sure. They tried nighttime curfews for one. They tried to impose a state of emergency for brief periods to bring the situation under control. But these measures failed to produce desired results. Human rights groups like the Human Rights Watch have accused Myanmar's government of complacency. The government, of course, denies these allegations. Some cases have been raised before the judiciary in that country after the violence in 2013, for example. At least 10 Muslims and 20 Buddhists were put in jail for life. But the Myanmar government is yet to come up with a long-term solution for this crisis. India's security agencies, meanwhile, have been asked to closely monitor the movement of Rohingyas. They've been asked to start an intelligence-gathering process to identify and map entry points and travel routes used by Rohingyas. Look at this map on your screen. So far, West Bengal and Tripura have been identified as the most popular transit points. Two locations in particular, Hili and Haridaspur, are the most common entry routes for India. These two cities were in West Bengal. They're close to the city of Howrah, from where Rohingyas are known to travel to Delhi, Hyderabad and Jammu. These cities are known to have large populations of Rohingya Muslims. India's decision to extend assistance to Myanmar can also be seen as an attempt to counter China's checkbook diplomacy in the region. China has ambitious plans to expand its investment portfolio and wants to add Myanmar to its list. Chinese projects and investments are valued at more than $7 billion in that country alone. China has its eye on a deep-sea project in Rakhine which can connect the violent state to the Bay of Bengal. And this explains why China wants a stake in this project so desperately. The investment will advance its One Belt, One Road plans. Reports claim that China wants a majority stake in the project, which could be anywhere between 70 to 85%. While India has received criticism for its decision to crack down and deport Rohingyas, experts say the approach is pragmatic. This is how it works. After the world has made a noise and slammed the government in Myanmar, Aung San Suu Kyi and her administration will be the only ones left to clean up this mess. India has been at the receiving end of Western hypocrisy in the past and empathizes, some say, with its eastern neighbour. Working in conjunction with Myanmar also boosts Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Act East policy. To open doors to the east, India has several infrastructure projects lined up where it requires Myanmar to play ball. Some of these projects are the India-Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral Highway and the Kaladan Transport Project. These will connect India with Myanmar through sea and road. This also elevates India's profile within BIMSTEC. In recent times, many experts have called on the Indian government to abandon SAARC in favour of BIMSTEC due to the stonewalling tactics of Pakistan. So all of it adds up as far as India's foreign policy is concerned. India also continues in the meantime to be sensitive to the massive humanitarian crisis that is unfolding. Journalists from around the world have documented the plight of lakhs of Rohingyas. The United Nations wants access to Rakhine so that it can send its investigators. This year, WION correspondents travelled both to Rakhine in Myanmar and to Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, the two cities which are at the heart of this crisis.
These Rohingya refugees have left everything behind. The violence in Rakhine has pushed more than 600,000 refugees into Bangladesh, but they still have nowhere to go. The Bangladesh government will not accept them. Myanmar has refused to recognize them. The mass exodus of Rohingyas has turned the coastal city of Cox's Bazar into a massive relief camp. WION travelled to Cox's Bazar in September.
At the Balukhali camp in Cox's Bazar, the hills have been filled up by Rohingya members with makeshift camps made of plastic sheds and thatched huts.
Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has urged the international community to put pressure on the Myanmar authorities to take these people back, as opposed to asking Bangladesh to open its borders, its own economic burdens.
It wasn't just the Rohingya Muslims. The Hindu community also was attacked in Rakhine. Some of them managed to escape to Bangladesh.
In Bangladesh, in the similar places across Okhia and Cox's Bazar. One of such persons is Chittaranjan Pal, who we're going to speak to.
An insurgent group has waged a movement against the government in Myanmar. We moved to Bangladesh in the face of their atrocities. This group had confined us for 8 days in our village and did not let us go outside for groceries or even to get water. After some days, we got to know that they had killed many Burmese Hindus in Fakira Bazar, which is 2 kilometers away from our village.
Back in Rakhine, authorities discovered mass graves as inconsolable family members watched in horror.
इनके साथ माँ बाप है, भाई बहन है, भाभी है, पूरा परिवार है, कुल मिला कर 23 नशे तो
मरी जाती है जम्बासी दे गबन
एक जन होता जम्बासी दे
भाई जी बांग्लादेश दे.
Some members of the Hindu community managed to find shelter in relief camps set up by the Myanmar government. But when WION visited one of the camps, we found survivors living in dire conditions. One family narrated the horrific tale of their survival. While the global community is pointing fingers at Myanmar's military for the crisis, they continue to deny any wrongdoing. According to estimates from Doctors Without Borders, more than 6,000 Rohingyas have been killed during the violence in Myanmar. With Manish Shukla and Saad Hamadi, Bureau Report, WION.